host of the very popular nationally syndicated radio show, Plan B Lifestyles. Its owner and host, Brian, is going to be here to talk about Direct Selling Live's recently announced first annual diversity list for direct selling. It is a list of the 30 most powerful, most influential minorities globally in direct selling. Why such a list? Because as we look around the boardroom to direct selling, they are white, male dominated, even for an industry that's over 80% women. And there's so much diversity globally, from Taiwan to Korea to Mexico to Brazil to Canada, you name it. Diversity is all over direct selling, and yet in the boardrooms, they are white, male dominated. So we decided to come out with our first annual diversity list. Today, the very popular show, Plan B Lifestyles, and its host, Brian, will be here to talk about our annual list here on OnAIR.
My mother used to sell Princess House.
Joined them way that night.
Norma siempre vendía cosas de Avon.
Oh, it must have been around 1935.
But those knives were amazing.
The one lady's name was Mary Kay, and I said, oh, cosmetics will never sell on Party Plan.
Was a single mom and created these hair care products for black women and became the first self-made millionaire in the United States. I just think that's extraordinary.
Welcome back to On Air. As I said, we have a very, very special guest today. We have the owner and host of the radio show Plan B Lifestyles. They are the preeminent authority dedicated to helping you create your Plan B. We have Brian, the host of the show. Brian has been on Direct Selling Live's Power 50 for multiple years and one of the most influential, most powerful people in all of direct selling. And we're here to talk about primarily not only Plan B Lifestyles, which we'll get into in the second segment, but we're going to talk about Direct Selling Live and MLM Black Women's first annual diversity list, a list of the most powerful, most influential minorities or people of color in direct selling. How are you, Brian?
I am excellent, and I got to start it by saying, first of all, it's an honor to be on the Diversity Top 30, but I noticed you put women in there, and I'm thinking to myself, wow, are you overloading the deck here or what?
Oh, no. From my standpoint, because, you know, we look at this going back to when Direct Selling Live started doing our Women in the Boardroom. We started looking at what's the issue with diversity in terms of men versus women, the ratio there. We have an industry that's over 80% women here in direct selling, network marketing, party plans, and the whole thing. And yet very few women actually ascend to the executive positions in direct selling. So when I'm talking to diversity, I'm talking about anyone that's a non-white male. That's where I'm
the old
coming.
Story. The old white male. It's just like the old black cow. It ain't what it used to be.
Yeah, watch out now.
The reason why I say that is if you look at things, you have more women ascending than black males ascending.
Right. Well, certainly in direct selling, in direct selling, and that's kind of what we're going to talk about today, because there's no better person that I know of to actually talk about this subject with me. The diversity list, as we began to put this together, and it was really interesting, the genesis of all of it. You know, I look at diversity as a very big deal. Like you, I am a rarity in direct selling. To my knowledge, I am the only black-owned media owner in direct selling. And it's interesting to be in that ocean. It really, really is. And you are one of the few black-owned media radio hosts and owners that speak on the subject of entrepreneurship, of direct selling as well. So you and I are kind of in the same boat, if you will, if I can stick with the ocean analogy there. I've often wondered why there aren't more blacks in executive positions, primarily black men. And as I begin to put the list together, it was a struggle coming up with 30 people. I'm talking about Latinos, Asians, unless you actually own the company, Indian, black. It was a huge struggle trying to find 30 very powerful, very influential people.
I bet it was. And let's look at it from the male standpoint. And I think I can speak a little bit more toward the black male standpoint. Mm-hmm. I guess my question would be to your answer is like this. Why would they? Why would they want to ascend? I got into, and Plan B Lifestyles is all about having a little bit more freedom, a little bit more independence. Look at the three that made your top 30 list, the three males. John Fleming. Mm-hmm. I don't know him personally. You do. But if you are a leader, publisher of Direct Selling News, you're working your buns off.
No doubt.
Holton Buggs. Okay, when you ascend to where he is, when I first met Holton, when Holton mentored me, he was in a downline, but he was working the field and enjoying it. I'm not saying that he doesn't enjoy his life now, but how many hours do you think he's putting in as a vice president? Mm-hmm. So I say that to you. I'm here for the independence. I'm here for the freedom. And that's what I preach to others. I don't know how many folks want to actually get out there and work 40, 50, 60 hours a day. They might as well stay in corporate America.
Well, there's no doubt that there's a lot of truth to what you're talking about. However, when you talk about direct selling and we're talking about delivering on the promise that we are industry for everybody, I think it's important that ownership from a minority standpoint be one of the things that really begins to bubble up. We don't have very many black owners in direct selling. Once you get past Nadine Thompson of Sole Purpose, you get past Ursula Dudley and Dr. Eunice Dudley of Dudley Products, or Dr. Tracy Lynn of Tracy Lynn Jewelry, there's such a tremendous drop-off. And I think in terms of pride, in terms of ownership, proving that that we are an industry for everyone, I go to the ownership position, because as I look at the boardrooms, this is what I'm seeing. We're seeing Cheryl Atkins Green. She is the Chief Marketing Officer for Mary Kay. We're seeing Cheryl Cormier, who's the Executive VP over at Sole Purpose. And then, as you mentioned, you've got John Fleming, who's a publisher of Direct Selling News, who I know and have done some work with in other areas outside of direct selling. And Holton Buggs, who is the VP of Sales over at Organo Gold. I think ownership is really, really critical. And having me being the owner of MLM Black Woman, the question oftentimes is asked of me, where are the black owners? And this is primarily coming from black women. We want to see ownership not just from a downline perspective, but also from a company perspective. And I think it's critical. If it's something that you and I talked about yesterday, it's important that you have a face be able to match your rhetoric, or a face be able to match what it is that you're trying to say. You can go say we're going to go after a particular market, but if you don't have the face that you could put there with it, it's a very hard sell, wouldn't you think?
Oh, I agree with you that it is a hard sell, but that selling usually comes down at the field level. It doesn't necessarily come from the corporate structure. There are very few companies out there where you are intermingling with the CEO, the president, the vice president of sales and marketing, et cetera, et cetera. Now, to get to your point, how do you get these people into that position? A couple of places you can start. Historically black colleges and universities.
Right.
Okay. Get it into the academic system before folks have a chance to be tainted, if you don't mind me using that term, by corporate America. Yeah. Because most of the time when you send your child off to college, you're thinking, yeah, I'm sending them to college so they can get a good job, to get a good education, to get a good job.
Right. Okay.
You're not thinking about sending them off to college so they can do something that they could have easily gotten into without going to college. Mm-hmm. Okay. And we have lots of people in our industry that do phenomenally well and never went to college.
Well, to that point of the HBCU side of things, John Fleming, who I know well, I've done work with him. He and I had the opportunity in 2006 to work with him on the Silver Dollar Classic HBCU football game here in Los Angeles, which we hadn't had a game like that in almost 50 years. He is not only the publisher of Direct Selling News, but he has an absolutely fantastic HBCU catalog, a book that he has had for some time. So if there's anyone who understands the message that you're talking about, if you're going to go into the HBCU, go into the historically black colleges, this is someone who can not only speak about HBCUs, but also could speak about direct selling and the value to the students there. I'm just saying this. I think ownership is important. I think ownership, not the type of ownership that goes beyond just being a distributor. For instance, for me to jump in as a media owner in direct selling, being the only black person that I know, it was, there was some struggle there, figuring out, should I even get into this? Because I know what I'm up against. I know what I'm dealing with. As I tell some people, it's like jumping into the lion's den. You really have to steady yourself as they're swirling around, knowing they don't want you there. Or for those that do want you there, it's a very competitive atmosphere, which is fine. I have no problem with that. But you know as well as I do, you have to work 2, 3, 4 times as hard just to get the respect. And yet I think it's important that these barriers be broken down, not only for people of color, but for women as well. I would love to see more women take ownership role. But I understand, that 40, 50 hour a week that you're talking about, when you can do this on 15, 20 hours a week and make even more money, that is very attractive indeed.
Well, exactly. That's the mantra that is presented when we get into this particular industry, is the time and financial freedom and independence that comes with being a home-based business operator. Again, I think it's great to get people to ascend to where you're talking about, and I think as time progresses, we'll have more folks doing exactly what you say from within the industry. But that's because they love the industry and they want to see the industry expand, and then they come up with some type of product or service line. And note the people that you mentioned before, they were all women. My guess is they didn't get into the ownership ranks because they are a color minority. They got into it because of the gender majority that they are, and they understand that they are a majority, and they understand skin products are important to women. They understand health and beauty is important to women. That's the angle that they're using.
Brian, we're getting ready to break here. When we come back, I want to talk more about that, because I absolutely agree with what you just said. Absolutely. It wasn't because of the color. It was because of the personal care products that they could put forward that could be of tremendous value to any number of women. When we come back.
No family can survive on 2 incomes anymore, let alone 1. If you are supplementing your family's income working from home, then tune into The Cash Flow Show, Direct Sales Radio. Host Deb Bixler brings you sales tips, lead generation systems, and best business practices that guarantee direct sales success. Whether you're looking for a little extra cash or a career change, The Cash Flow Show, Direct Sales Radio will give you proven systems that will work in your home business. The Cash Flow Show, every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific Time on World Talk Radio Variety.
Welcome back to OnAIR. Just having a good chuckle with my really good friend Brian. For those of you who don't know, Brian, how did we get to know each other? What, about 3-4 years ago? I think you called, somehow we connected email-wise or something like that. How did all this happen? Because you and I, we get on the phone and we have a great time.
We do, when you're not too tied up going to Disney or something like that. But be that as it may, I was out researching for the talk show. And the talk show that I was doing at that time catered to a black audience. And so I was looking for black people that were influential in the industry. And I happened to talk to Grace and Nikki Keohoho, and they said, "Oh, you must know Keeper." I said, "Who?" DirectSellingLive.com. So I went to the website and I said, wow. And I said to myself, nobody's doing this. Nobody is doing this. And so I found out, well, yes, one person is doing it. And I have to let you know, Keeper, to the best of my knowledge, nobody is doing what you do at Direct Selling Live. Doesn't matter what the race or the gender or the ethnicity is. Okay? You're the only one out there looking after us from a entertaining, social, if you'd like to throw that in there, educational, and a political standpoint. Don't ever forget that. And people are the people that are against you, Keeper, they're against you because you're breaking ground and they're saying, how come I didn't think of that first? All right? So don't ever let that go by.
Well, I appreciate it, and I have no intention of letting that go by, or no intention of letting them ever forget it. Let's
Too
just
late
go.
now. Too late now. Keeper has broken the ground.
Yeah, and I will continue to break ground as best I can. But let's go back to something that you said towards the very end of the last segment, which is the women that I mentioned on the list from the Dudleys. It's Ursula Oglesby Dudley, or Dr. Eunice Dudley, the founders and president, along with Mr. Dudley over there at Dudley Products, Nadine Thompson over at Soul Purpose, Dr. Tracy Lynn of Tracy Lynn Jewelry. You mentioned that they typically get in or create a business, become the owners, the founders of a business, not because of race issues per se. I think there might be a touch of that, but they're also looking at the products that they create can break racial barriers, and so they're able to put forth something that's very, very good, can help just about any person of any color. I would go to this point. In other countries, be it Korea, Japan, Brazil, Vietnam, the Philippines, the owners of those companies do, in a lot of ways, create their product to serve their particular racial segment. I know it might not, if you're talking about a full expansion, you're talking about really global growth, you have to go beyond that. You have to have the mindset that takes you well beyond that. But I do think that in a large part, they're looking at creating a product that's for a segment that is underserved. So even if we're looking at Soul Purpose, or if we're looking at Tracy Lynn Jewelry, they're looking at a product that could serve black females or women of color, and then they look to go beyond. What are your thoughts on that?
I can understand where you're coming from. I don't know how much I agree with that. I would say this. You go into any shopping mall in the United States of America or Canada or Mexico, and the majority of the stores cater to women. Women love to shop, and they like to test different products out, whether they go into the store or they do it online, or you come into their house. So I think that a woman thinks that, look, I've got a product line out here that I think is a little bit better or a little bit different.
Well, this is where I differ with you.
Forward.
This is where I differ, and we even challenge you on this point. I know a lot of direct selling owners, and I know the reason why they put their products together because they have told me that they're going to create a product or a service that will fit with middle white America, which is fine. We will get to breaking down or looking at the ethnic products, if you will, if I use the word ethnic here, looking at ethnic products later down the line, because we know that certainly here in the United States, white America has more disposable income, which is what they will tell, which is what they have told me in the past and continue to do so. When I go into a store like you are using as your example here, I can go into a Rite Aid. I can go into an Albertsons. I can go into any of those stores, go into their non-foods aisles and look at all the products for skin care and hair care. And then towards the very end, you will get this small segment of the ethnic products. So that tells me the people that they are targeting is not so much people of color. And I think there's an opportunity
I agree
there.
with that. I agree with you on that. But when we talk about the ethnic people who are owners, they're still targeting their products toward women, whether it be black women or women of color.
Right.
But what I'm saying is you see more and more companies because they believe that they have a product, even dealing with women for color, that's a little bit better than the other product out there that's dealing with women for color.
Well, we certainly have seen, I think, a major shift after this past election as we saw the minority majority really speak up and speak out this past election here in the United States. And we're really seeing it throughout the world. People of color are really starting to bring their voices forward. Let's get into something really, really quick because this is something that not only is important to me, but is absolutely dear to your heart, which is creating your plan B, which is in some ways kind of what we're talking about. You know, if there's an opportunity for minority ownership, to be more prevalent here in direct selling, and there's also an opportunity for people to create their plan B, be it if you're whatever color, whatever gender you happen to be. Talk about Plan B lifestyles and what it is that you do.
Well, thank you very much for asking that question. Plan B Lifestyles is my latest talk show, but it's also a style of life that I live that I try to present to others. And basically, as you mentioned before, I help people create their Plan B, which is develop strategies that afford them a better quality of life, albeit, hopefully, with a lower cost of living. And what do? I use the talk show. I use webinars. I use conference calls, other media as conduits to teach people how to start and expand a home-based operation that is portable. And that's a key phrase right there. That's portable so they can work when and where they want and develop the necessary cash flow to live a much more comfortable and enjoyable life.
You know, what I like about your show is that it, as you said, not only is it portable, but it's really about creating a home-based business, which goes well beyond direct selling. And because you have been one of the top nationally syndicated radio hosts for over 30 years. I mean, you've been coast to coast, East Coast, West Coast, and you are extremely well known and very, very, very popular. When people come to your radio show, because you talk about real estate, you talk about direct selling, you talk about any number of things that happen to do with home-based businesses, why is it so important that people have a plan B?
Well, I think for the majority of folks right now, and I'm going to break it into two categories. I'm glad you asked the question. First part would be that the plan A ain't working. Okay, folks are looking right now, if they are in their 45 plus age and still working, they're saying, I can't retire. For most people, retirement because they got a good education leading to a halfway decent job, you're now finding out that retirement isn't an age, it's cash flow.
Yeah.
And they don't have the cash flow. So now they are looking at options. Many people are looking at part-time jobs. How many folks do you know, maybe not personally, but you see working at Walmart that you think should be at home?
Hold on a second. Let's go back to what you just said. Retirement ain't an age. It's cash flow. Say that again so we can all hear it. That's beautiful.
But for the majority of folks, a college education is the gateway to 45 years of hard labor. And at 45 years, thereabouts, age 65, people think they're going to retire. That's because that's the magic age we've heard about. The fact of the matter is, retirement is not an age. It is cash flow. If you don't have the cash flow, you can't retire.
Say that. Man, I've never heard it put quite so eloquently. That's a great, great statement. And I think that's the name
of your next
book. I think that's the title of your next book, actually.
Hey, actually, thank you very much.
Yes, indeed.
And we hope to get into books. It's interesting that you should say that. I have a guest that, as you broadcast this show, appeared a few hours earlier on the live broadcast, who was talking about putting together ebooks as a plan B, or if you want to convert it into a plan A, because we can all do that now if we want to take the time to do so.
Right.
And the cash flow from these books better than I do as a talk show host.
Hey, listen, before we go, how do people catch up to you? How do they learn about you? Where do they catch you on the radio? Give us the website. Give us the information.
Well, as long as you're not the police, you can catch me. You'll find me at planblifestyles.com. www.plan, the letter B, lifestyles with an S at the end, .com. And that's my website. You will be able to find live and archived programs, different blog posts that I put in there, things dealing with DirectSellingLive.com and all kinds of things dealing with who I am and what I do. Just to quickly answer your question, talk show is on live Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's New York City time, D.C. time, Miami time. And again, those shows are archived for you to listen to at your beck and call if you can't hear the show live.
Is the radio show broadcast via the internet?
It certainly is. In fact, that's why I send people there, because to tell you the different kind of radio stations that you can find me on seems to change all the time. Because one thing that, again, going back to good education, good job, there are people in the radio industry, and I've been in this industry for 33 years now, that look and say, oh, what you're talking about on the radio, that really doesn't appeal to our audience. So what I'm trying to do is appeal to the people that either want to be a Plan B lifestyle or are living the Plan B lifestyle. And so the internet is a great way to find me. Radio stations switch all the time.
It's a great show. I have had the honor of being on your show as a guest many, many times. It's a great, great show. You have actually great content, great topics, and it's just a wide variety of things that deal primarily with home-based businesses. Brian, thanks again. Host and owner of Plan B Lifestyles, the preeminent authority dedicated to helping you people out there, create your Plan B. Thanks again, Brian.
Thank you, Kiefer. Honored to be a guest on your program. I hope that I'm worthy enough to have to come back again and again for naming me influential within the industry. Thanks. I really appreciate it.
I hope you're worthy too. Take care.
My mother used to sell Princess House.
Joined them way that night.
Norma siempre vendía cosas de Avon.
Oh, it must have been around 1935.
But those knives were amazing.
The one lady's name was Mary Kay, and I said, oh, cosmetics will never sell on Party Plan.
Was a single mom and created these hair care products for black women and became the first self-made millionaire in the United States. I just think that's extraordinary.
That's our show for today, but before I go, just a quick comment. Recently, here in the United States, we just had our presidential election, and what we saw was the true browning of America when it comes to politics and when it comes to the voice of the people really rising up, particularly in the Latino or Hispanic population. It's interesting where the majority of people are in terms of who we vote for. We are still voting for based on race in a lot of ways. And in also a lot of ways, here in direct selling, ownership is still based on race. Opportunity for management and opportunity to acquire ownership in a lot of ways is still based on race. However, I think we are beginning to move into a segment historically of direct selling where the true browning, or as I like to say, where we actually deliver on the promise of everyone having an opportunity, is really starting to take shape. As we begin to see the world shift in terms of color, who has power, who has real opportunity, direct selling has an opportunity itself to really take the lead on this. It's going to be interesting over the next 5 to 10 years to see where all this shakes out. If we are really going to be in an industry of opportunity, an industry for everyone, we really need to diversify in terms of our ownership, color-wise, and in terms of our management color-wise. Why? Because you need a diverse voice. You need to have people who can represent all segments of the population. You need to be able to have those people in the boardroom, be it women, be it blacks, be it Hispanics, be it gays and lesbians, whatever you want, they need to be in the boardroom. Because if you do not have this sort of representation, you run the risk of being the pavement as opposed to being the steamroller. So if you're a direct selling company and you do not have the representation color-wise that you should, you really need to back up, because as we're seeing right now, it is going to be a very, very prominent discussion here in America. And as America goes in a lot of ways, so does the world. Thanks again to Brian for coming on air. We'll see you next week. Have a great weekend.